This is the Gerber Moment. It's a $30 knife. I got it for $15 at Walmart. It's 5CR15MOV steel, made in China. Blade is 3.5 inches. Overall length is 8.5 inches. Weight, 5.5 ounces. The factory edge was very sharp out of the box. 5+ out of 5. Shaves very well, scary sharp. The edge was a little bit glassy and did not have very much bite to it. This is a true full tang knife. It does have a lanyard hole. The handle is secure and comfortable. It has removable scales. I was a little bit concerned about the stubbiness of the blade, and a minus on this knife is that the jimping hurts a little bit, although it works. The sheath is adequate overall. It's good for $15. It's solid due to the plastic insert. The button strap works okay, and the belt loop works okay. The stitching is quite tight on this sheath. It seems adequate for the price. So I'm going to run this knife through various tasks and see how it performs. Push. Score, 5 exclamation point. The factory edge just lacked toothiness. Size reference. Score, 5. The first cut was very hard and was at the beginning of the rope. May have had some kind of glue or something on it. Action. Snagged there a little bit, which is weird. I've never had that.
There was some snagging on his cardboard cuts, and on further inspection we have a pretty big burr right here. Pretty substantial. It goes from about here and ends about there.
Score, 3. Score, 3.5. Blade is pretty short. Score, 4. Score 5. Making feather sticks is not my greatest skill, but this knife did pretty well for me at this. Score 5. Score 5. Score 5. Score on the pencil is a 5. However, that finger guard area was kind of weird, and I found myself kind of trying to work around it. It would take some getting used to for me. Score 4.5. I found myself not being able to get quite the bite I wanted on a few strokes. Could be due to the damage to the edge. We don't really score the stab, we just measure the penetration on the notebook. This handle was secure and the knife stabbed well. This knife is not a chopper. It did pretty well for its size though. For bite, I gave it a 3. For efficiency, I gave it a 2.
Same.
The factory edge on this knife was incredible. It may have just been a little bit too thin. However, it did not take any more damage aside from the initial damage after the rope cutting. So here you can see the damage to the edge. This was sustained after the first sessions of rope cutting, which is unusual. The knife held up well during the rest of the gauntlet, and the damage does not seem too bad. Hopefully it'll sharpen right out. Okay, we're going to try to get this damage out by putting a micro bevel on this from the Sharpmaker. I'm going to try this at the 40 degree inclusive, so 20 degree micro bevel. See if we can clean this up. You'll see me wobble here trying to get lined up on this first stroke. I was having trouble seeing where the edge engaged past that fat handle area. Okay, I really tried to lighten my strokes there at the end. Let's see what we get here. This thing is super, super sharp. Quite toothy. There's still a little bit of burr on here, but the damage is greatly reduced. Let's see what it looks like here on this coupon paper. Not bad. Perfect. Good enough for me.
Okay, so what was happening when I first started using this Sharpmaker with this particular knife, and the reason it was wobbly on that first stroke on the one side is because you can see the edge, the cutting edge actually comes down beyond this point here. And so when you're looking at the knife upwards, this thing kind of blocks your view of the edge, and it kind of feels like your edge is going to end here, but it doesn't. It ends way down here. So that just caused me a little bit of a fit, and I had to feel around a little bit for what I was doing. So that was why it was a little wobbly. And just be aware that if you use this kind of a system that's sort of visually cued, this particular knife or knives like this may have that problem I experienced where you have to kind of feel around for a minute until you get the hang of it. Just something to be aware of.
Okay, so here's my final thoughts on the Gerber Moment. This knife actually performed really well for me today. Most of my initial thoughts still stand. The sheath was fine. I did not think this was going to even fit on a belt. It did fit, it had plenty of room, and it was fine. It seemed fine and secure on the belt. I did have a little bit of trouble attaching this snap over there. This is totally easy when I'm sitting at the table, but for some reason when I had this on my body, I had a hard time finding it, but it did work. It was just a little cumbersome, so it might just take some getting used to. Overall, the sheath is adequate. It's not exciting, but it's fine. The blade actually performed well. A con is that it did sustain that damage during the rope testing, which is unusual. But it sharpened right out, sharpened very easily, and now this knife has an incredibly scary, sharp, toothy edge, just absolutely the way I like it. Super toothy. Not sure if you're gonna be able to see this. Shaves like crazy, super toothy. Really happy with how this thing sharpened up. I need to do further testing and see how resilient this edge is with the 20-degree micro bevel. We'll see how that does. So I may have to do some follow-up testing. Another con with this knife is the jimping. It is a little bit uncomfortable, as I stated in my initial impressions. I did not have a problem with it during the gauntlet, however. I did not notice any discomfort. I only notice it now while I'm holding the knife here. A neutral on this knife is this thing right here. This guard area to me seems kind of weird. Overall, this handle's very comfortable in many different grips. I don't find it uncomfortable at all. But while I was using this knife specifically during the sharpening of the pencil, this thing just seemed kind of weird. It seemed to put my hand in an awkward position. I kind of wanted to put my finger there, was unable to do so, but it was fine. So I'm not calling that a minus or a con. It's just kind of a neutral. Again, further testing required to see how much that's actually a problem. For $30, I think this knife is adequate. The sheath is somewhat of a disappointment in that price range, but there are other options that may be better for sheaths. For $15, I'm very, very happy with this knife. I think it would be hard to find something that beats it in that price range, to be honest with you. I'm very, very happy to have this knife in my collection in the $15 to $20 even price range. If you can find one, get it. These may be getting discontinued, but there are places that have a version of this that has the gut hook on it. I can't speak on that. I don't use gut hooks. I don't know anything about them. The lanyard, I didn't try that out, but it does have one. Seems to be adequate. Overall, I'm very happy with this knife and excited to do more testing with it. Okay, so I have sharpened this back up on the sharp maker. It's got a very sharp edge on it. Going to try to cut this rope again, recreate the problem I had before. This time I'm going to be cutting on a cutting board. This should exert more force against the rope, with the rope being more movable, and I also will be impacting the cutting board. So I'm just going to check the stability of the edge now that I have this micro bevel on it. This is the same rope I used during the gauntlet testing. Let's do 5 or so cuts. That bites right through. It's awesome. I'll do 10. Tiny bit of burr forming there, tiny, but not too significant. 1/2-inch rope. This is the same 1/2-inch rope I used before, and you can see the difference in size here. It's considerable. I'll do again 10 cuts. The slight burr I noticed before is actually gone, and there's not much burr here either. I believe this is still very sharp. It actually still has some teeth in here in the area I was working. Still very grabby to my finger pads this way. Still feels extremely dangerous. So again, 10 cuts on 1/4-inch rope, 10 cuts on 1/2-inch rope. That's not nothing against the cutting board. Let's see where we're at with this kind of magazine type catalog paper. Down to here, so I'm gonna skip that spot. Seems perfectly fine. I think my 20-degree micro bevel has fixed this problem. I would be very confident that this knife should be stable, and if I do more testing, I'll keep you guys posted. So we were able to correct that problem with the 20-degree micro bevel. This is my first experience with 5CR15MOV steel. I was very impressed with it today. It did well. I think I could trust this knife, and I will keep you posted if I do further testing. Thank you.